I mean, the dust might not be settled on what it actually costs if we get into a claim situation. So how does the state determine, when the game is over and they settle up with you? That I hadn't thought about that before. That they might, if the bids come in very, very low and they're anxious to write you a check to get going, but then the costs suddenly increase because of change orders and things like that.
Well, the process with the state is that they're going to pay us throughout the course of the project as construction progresses. And if there are change orders that are within the scope of the project, those are things that you can submit to the state. If there were change orders that were outside the scope of the project, such that we decided to add a wing or do something very different, which we're not planning to do, those they would not pick up. So through the course of construction, you also get to bid, you get to bill the state for change orders. Okay. This is the breakdown of the estimated cost of construction. And this takes into account the market reduction factor of 15%. And it also takes into account the $644,000 worth of deductions that were identified in the value engineering exercise. So we would envision the off-site improvements at $1.2 million, the on-site improvements, which is all the grading and clearing, the underground utilities, the roadways, the fencing, the retention bioswale at $5.5 million. The jail itself is $24.6 million. The sheriff's office at 10.3 and the dormitory at 3.1. Now, for a total of $44.9 million. Now, you'll notice that the jail building at 24.6 is less than the 26.4 that the county's been authorized by the AB 900. But the state will pay for a part of the on-site improvements. So we've got to go through and do a negotiation with the state to identify what part of the on-site improvements they're going to pay for. And there should be some change orders included in that. So we're anticipating that will be at or above the $26.4 million in general money that we're entitled to from the state. Now, there's some assumptions in there, but at this point, that's all we can do until we really know what the construction numbers are. We've also, this is pretty much a standard practice for projects that I'm involved in, and some projects that Kitchell's involved in, is to identify alternates, because you really don't know what's going to happen when the project bids. And if we believe that the estimated cost is $44.9 million, but the bids actually come in above that number, we want to have the ability to pull things out of the project to be able to go ahead and award the contract. So we've identified $4.5 million of what we're calling deductive alternates. Now, the first deductive alternate is the dormitory, and that's been something we've discussed for since I've been involved in the project, is that being a potential deductive item if necessary. There's a photovoltaic system in the project, and that's estimated at $1.1 million. If the project bid over that could go away. There are epoxy floors in the cells, and that sounds like why we're putting nice fancy floors in these cells, but really it's a cleanliness issue, and it's because of this health and safety. Solar collectors, that's basically solar hot water to allow us to heat the hot water and reduce the energy bills. And there's some slightly upgraded floor coverings that could come out, and I skipped over the skylight. So anyway, we've identified $4.5 million of bid alternates that could come out of the project if it's necessary and the project bids higher than we anticipated bidding.
Is that's your estimate? So, and I'm assuming when the package goes out to bid, you identify those alternatives and ask for them to plug numbers in.
We will.
Yes. So that is your estimate, not what may come back from the bid as alternate costs.
Yes. We're hoping they'll be the same, but
somewhere close. Yeah.
Okay. So anyway, with the alternates taken, all the alternates taken, the estimated cost is $40 million. So we're in a range from about $40.4 million to $44.9 million. Let's kind of summarize that if we could. The construction budget for the project currently is $43.8 million. currently for construction, excluding any change order allowances or contingencies. The estimated cost from the other sheet I just had up there is $44.9 million for everything. So essentially the project, if the estimate came on exactly as the contractors bid it, we would be $1.1 million over budget, and we'd have to take some of the deductible alternates to get there. If it came at the lower end, which is including all the deductible alternates, we'd be $3.4 million under budget. So what I'm trying to convey here is that we've established a range, and the construction budget is at the upper end of that range. And we're feeling, the project team has discussed this. I've discussed this with the cost estimators, and everyone's pretty comfortable with being in this position at this time. Okay. Let's talk about the schedule for a second. This is the schedule currently for completion of the project. We anticipate receiving bids in February, issuing a notice to proceed the next month in March. New construction is anticipated to take about 20 months. Once the new construction is done, we'll need to have a period to shake out the building, test the systems, get it functioning well. The Sheriff's Department will need to come in and start to operate the jail, make sure they're versed on how everything's working and functioning, and then in February begin occupancy. Once occupancy is completed, we will abate the old jail, demolish the old jail in May, by the end of May, and then by June, the project should be completed.
Frank, I know I've asked this before, is the demolition included in that 44 million plus or minus?
It is included in that 44 million. We're having some discussion with regard to should that be a separate contract at the end that we award, or should it be included in the general contractor's contract? Because the general contract will be done in December, and then they have to come back in late February to do the demolition. So we could go either way with that, and I don't think that decision's been framed up yet.
Can AB 900 pay for that?
No. All they'll pay for is the construction of the new jail and the associated site work.
Thank you.
I think it needs to be included.
You would include it?
I would include it, simply so you could get all the costs together coming out. If you complete the project and you still have, and it's cost and you are over budget, you've got no money left to demo it, and you've got no contract to demo it. So I would include it in one package. That happens many times where a general has to come back after several months to complete the job.
Okay.
That's my opinion on it.
Doug, I have a question about the roughly $1 million worth of road work that you talked about that would precede the receiving the bids on the construction on February 22nd. What was the timetable for the other bidding? Okay, so, all right. 12. Okay, construction.
And that's 2011, as you pointed out earlier.
Yeah. But that's finishing on April, and then you wanted to break ground on March 1st or something, didn't you say in that the last slide that you had on there said break ground in March of 2011 for
Yes.
And you're not going to complete this road until April?
We've got an extra month in there of construction time that we put in, so there's a little bit of overlap. If we had to delay the award of the major contract a couple of weeks, I don't think that's going to be a problem. We'll know when we're ready to issue notice to proceed with the general contractor the status of this contract, and we can award it accordingly.
Okay, but I think I heard you say that you thought that this work would likely come in at about 1.1 million.
1.2.
1.2, and that has been included in your 44 million construction,
Yes.
overall construction.
Yes, that's included in the 44.9.
Okay.
questions on the schedule?
Are there any questions or comments?
Just
I'd
a-
like, oh, go ahead, Tom.
A quick question. I don't see anything for contingencies. Are you using that alternative 4 million or something of what you can back out of a project? Is that your contingency for the project?
There is, on top of the $44.9 million, a 5% contingency.
There
It's
is.
a little over $2 million for change orders and unforeseen
Okay.
conditions that could come up.
Okay, I didn't see that anyplace in your numbers.
Yeah, because I was trying to compare construction
Okay,
bids.
so that's 5% basically.
Yes.
And still we have the alternatives of 3.4 million. So you really have almost $5.5 million to play with for a drop-dead contingency.
Yes.
Okay.
And that's taken into account a 15% market reduction in the market that's
Okay.
perhaps bidding better than that. The estimator probably wouldn't like me to say that.
Okay.
He's very conservative, but that's my opinion.
Thank you.
Are there any comments from the public or any questions from the public? One more?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
There's a schedule. We're going to talk about 8900 funding for a second. The contractual agreements, County Council reviewed the contractual agreements with the state and made a written comment for request of some modifications. There was a conference call with the state on June 22nd to go through those comments.
July
Mr. Jones wants to comment on that.
Last week, July.
In the year 1010?
Fingers don't have space.
This jail has been in planning stage for a long time. Almost as long as the bypass in Angels.
The contracts for the
Stone Ages.
project are quite complicated because of the nature of the funding. Public Works Board anticipates selling bonds. That money will be used to build the jail. The county will build the jail on county property and operate it. So there needs to be a tight set of documents that show potential buyers of the bond that the state has the right, the contractual right, to sell those bonds, and that the bonds are secured, are well secured by the building. So the contracts are understandably quite complex, and as far as I can tell, the state has done a good job of accurately reflecting what the deal is supposed to be. I mean, that's, I think, first and foremost, our job is to make sure that the documents correspond to what the arrangement, what we understand the project is going to be. The documents seem to do that. We've had some discussions about more, I think, peripheral issues, not unimportant. But I think the important thing is that, well, in this conference call, that Jeannie was involved, and Doug and Ed Ballard. There were lawyers from the Department of Finance, the CDCR, the Public Works Board, and most noteworthy, I think, a representative from the governor's office. The governor's office is not a party to this deal, but they were intimately involved in the call to make sure that I think we were getting as much cooperation as we possibly could. So we had a constructive discussion, and they've accepted most of the changes that we requested. We're still arm wrestling over a few, but I don't see anything that we're not going to be able to resolve.
Jim, may I ask Jim a quick question here? I thought these were general obligation bonds of the state.
No,
Are you saying that they're going to have, if they defaulted, that the bondholders would foreclose against the jail?
The bonds are not general obligation bonds. They're secured by the cash flow that comes from the CDCR leasing this facility from
What's CDCR, help me?
California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation, state prisons.
Okay. Okay, well, we're putting 32 million of Measure J money with this. Do we have to subordinate then that money for the state bond? In other words, if they come to foreclose on the jail, what happens to our 32 million?
Well, I think you need to ask that question of a bond lawyer to be certain. I can only tell you that it's that cash flow that is the security. They expect to make the payments on the
Okay, but
bond.
that's the security for the, what are we getting, 29 million from the state?
26 million.
26 million from the state. That's the security for the 26 million. What happens to our 32 million, help me for the right numbers, that's also in this project if that were to be foreclosed on?
There,
Go ahead, yeah, Doug.
there's a parcel that will be identified. It's not going to be an APN or a real parcel. It will be a meets and bounds description that describes a parcel that surrounds the jail only. And that's all that the state will be entitled to. So they will be entitled to the jail that they paid for and a small piece of property around the jail. It would not take anything else into account. So the bond indebtedness would just be against the jail building and the property surrounding the jails. To give you an example, that site plan is 11.5 acres, and the piece around the jail is 2.5 acres.
Okay, but is there not Measure J money commingled with the state money in the jail that would be the subject of security for the state bond?
No. The jail, unless the project went over the $26.4 million, assuming it's under that, the state will pay for the total cost of the construction of the jail.
Okay, so that answers that question. Thank you.
One thing I'd just like to point out also, in the conference call, Mr. Jones requested that, because this is not essentially an arm's length relationship with the state, it's more of a cooperative agreement, that they allow Calaveras County to benefit from other negotiations or contract adjustments that have been made with other counties, perhaps larger counties that have larger legal staff to review the document. And the state was amenable to that and actually presented a couple of ideas. And so the contract between the state and the county is going to benefit from that.
Yeah, I think the understanding was we would get the best deal available to other counties.
Okay. Thank you.
Anything else?
Yes.
That's fine.
We're hoping to get the documents to the board in August. This may be a little optimistic, depending on how quickly the state reviews the couple of issues that are still outstanding, and we get those resolved and actually get the final document to bring to the board for approval. This is an item that the state did, I don't want to say on their own volition. The Sheriff Downham and the California State Sheriff's Association lobbied the governor's office, and there was pressure to reduce this retention amount. And if you remember in the prior study session in April, we brought in Jonathan Edwards to speak about the potential need for interim financing, and that was a result of this 20%. In other words, the prior agreement, the state was going to allow you to bill them and be reimbursed up to 80%. And once you bill 80% of the amount, they were going to stop paying you until the project was completely done. Now they're going to pay you up to 95%. So that's a huge improvement for the cash flow for Calaveras County, and we may not need the interim financing. The county may be able to handle that 5% internally. Modification of matching funds. This is just a minor item that I put out there, but the matching funds, part of the matching funds was what's called in-kind match, and it's basically the county being able to get credit for staff time that have been involved in the project. So the sheriff's office and any county staff that worked on the project directly, their time could be tracked, rates could be put to that time, and you could actually get credit with the state for that. The problem with that is it's a massive accounting issue. It makes the audit at the end of the job very complicated. We were able to change the total matching funds are the same, but we were able to make a few adjustments such that we don't have to have any county time allocated for it. So it's going to make the final audit of the project much easier and much quicker. We're aiming for the Public Works Board meeting on September 13th. There's two things we're looking to accomplish there. First of all, we're looking to establish the project with the state, where they'll actually formally recognize the scope, budget, and schedule associated with the project. And independent of that, we want approval of preliminary plans, so they'll approve the plans. Financial condition of the state?
Yeah. Everybody's guess. I mean, when we talk to the Department of Finance, they don't believe that the financial condition of the state will impact this project. If, in fact, the State Public Works Board approves our project, they are not going to go forward with it until they can assure that we will get the funding, whether that's through interim financing, through the pooled money investment fund. They can't absolutely guarantee the sale of the bonds and when because of the overall condition, but they feel very confident that once they approve our project, we will have the funding and we'll go forward.
Well, the county, was that Yolo County that you showed us that came in so far under?
That was a state project.
Oh, that was, oh,
Yeah.
okay.
It was in Vacaville.
Okay, so it wasn't an AB 900 county. Thank you.
No, that was
No, it's a state project, but I believe it was funded under AB 900.
Yeah.
No, no, no.
yeah, that was a,
I don't believe it was. No, it wasn't. It's a state project for California Department of Corrections in Vacaville. And we don't think it was funded through AB 900.
Thank you.
Okay. Getting near the end, a few other issues. Project utilities, we've provided conceptual plans to the sanitary district and the water district. Once we get a permanent alignment for the roads, we'll finish the designs and submit the final design to them for approval and ultimately moving forward with construction. PG&E is finalizing the electrical and gas plans. With regard to the mitigation, the Army Corps of Engineers is the lead agency, and we have consultants working with them. A preliminary determination letter was received from the Corps, which is sort of the first step, and now our consultants are in the process of obtaining the nationwide 404 permit, so we can do infill of 0.31 acres of wetland that's necessary to construct the project. Potential wetland. I think that's a broad term. So, last, the Mountain Ranch Road improvements. There were proposals received by Public Works. They had quite a interesting project, and the anticipation is to bring a recommendation for contract award to the board on August 3rd. With that, turn it back to you.
Okay. Any other questions or comments from the public? I'd like to open it to the public for any questions or comments.
Yes, Joe Kelly. Thank you, sir. You did a very good presentation. You answered almost all of my questions. Almost. I'm very concerned, and it's because I have made contact with the pooled money investment account asking about something, and they referred me to the Department of Finance. I've never heard back from that agency. So I want to look at this concept of a number of things. The pooled money investment account is still frozen? No? Okay, so that's going to be the interim financing ability. And so it's going to go the way the resolutions passed here initially were, that it will go interim financing and be long-term financed through the sale of state bonds at the end of the project. Okay. What has I've personally been seeing through this, whatever you want to call this financial debacle, so many contractors are going broke. So many contractors are losing everything they have as far as equipment. They're turning it in because it's either they've been paying on it, losing it. There's also, I've seen a number of generals that go into these projects outside of their normal construction product. You said you're going to do a review of these folks that are going to be coming up. I think that's extremely important, and I do appreciate that concept. The bonding agencies. There's also been bonding agencies in the recent past that have gone out of business also. So how is that going to play into effect on this project? It's going to be a rather large project for that. Is there a secure enough pool of bonding agencies to be able to be used for this by the general contractor?
That will be one of the requirements and pre-qualifications to make sure they've got sufficient bonding capacity with a recognized bonding company. And in the more global scheme of things, I mean, this is a very large project for Calvert County for us, but in the more global aspect, it's not that big. I mean, we're talking, $1 billion projects.
Okay.
$1 million is not
So back to on the concept of the bonding, if something happened within the bonding concept, that there was either failures of subs or this, what, in a contingency effect, what kind of contingency is being looked at as far as staying on time schedule? And what effect it would have if somebody fell down into that hole?
Well, I don't think we can plan on that at this time, because we don't know who, if anybody's going to go under. So you'd be making a lot of supposition and guesses that really aren't going to get you anywhere. It's sort of a, if that happens, we have to deal with it. Again, going back to the pre-qualification, if you qualify, really top-notch contractors that have been doing this for years, have good balance sheets, good financial backing, it's something that we would have to work through. It's not going to be something that would be just routine order business, but it's something that we've worked with other contractors in the past, and I don't see huge impact.
Well, my concern on that is when this thing first started, that it was hard to determine what a value per square foot or per bed was on the jail because there hadn't been too much of that construction going on. Is there now a lot of construction going on in the prison systems so that through CDCR information or that such can provide the quality of the contractors that might be bidding the projects, the primes?
Yes, quality of contractors or cost?
Quality of contractor. Because the quality of the contractor that they are, knowing what they're doing. They're not just new and looking at a plan and coming up, throwing up concrete and a few things on, but that they're actually have gone through previous projects somewhere else, either through CDCR state or through other jail projects in the recent past.
There's a number of things that are happening. As you mentioned in the beginning, contractors are bidding work that they might not have bid in the past. And sometimes that's not a good thing because they don't have the expertise. But in a certain instance, there are contractors, large contractors, that no names, but there are large contractors. They're some of the top contractors in the state and the nation that would be potentially interested in bidding this project that 2 years ago wouldn't even think about. Mm-hmm. So if we can pre-qualify and bring those contractors in, I think we'd be in a very good spot. And that's our objective.
Okay, so you're going to look nationwide then for contractors to bid this project, possibly?
They're going to be California contractors that work in California, have experience in California, but a lot of them might not be corporately housed in California, but they've been in California for years.
One thing you said earlier on the access, the clearing and all that, $1.2 million roughly, and using local. Are there any locals left?
That's a good question.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments? Okay. This meeting stands adjourned. Thank you, Mr. Allen. Appreciate it. Thank you.